We'd practiced enough to the point where we were like, okay, it's time to play a show now. This was way back when we were still using a MySpace page for our music. This girl must have stumbled upon it, and she messaged us. I think it was on Facebook. She was like, hey, I'm putting together...
So you hadn't known her? Yeah.
No. She's like, hey, I'm putting together this show, and I'm having a lot of local bands there. It's going to be kind of like a backyard festival sort of thing. And we were like, wow, this is crazy. Like, this is our first show. I can't believe this is going to happen. So we get all excited and we like load all our stuff into this van, and like we're driving to our first show. We roll up to the house and we go in, and it's very quiet, like your standard suburban backyard, little pond with a fountain, things like that. There was maybe seven 18-year-olds, like 7 high school kids. We were just kind of like, did we roll up on the wrong house? Maybe?
And how old were you at the time?
We were like 22.
Okay, we weren't too much older than them, but it was like, she was like, oh, I'm having this backyard festival, and we go in, and it's like, okay, this backyard is like 20 feet by 10 feet.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know where anyone's setting up.
So we're there, and she's like, yeah, hey guys, thanks for coming. You can set up right over there, like on the lawn. and like, yeah, we're so happy you came. And basically what the show was, it was like a high school grad party with 8 kids and the Bluestones in the backyard. Performing for these kids, and we're like, shit, all right, this is it. And it was kind of cute because like her mom came out and she's like, can I get you guys some hot dogs and like some pop?
So they didn't even like acknowledge that was funny or unusual?
No, they're like, this is weird. We're gonna just leave after the set. So we start like loading up, and the mom's like, no, you have to stay for hot dogs.
Yeah, it was honestly we played the show, and it was a fun time. Like, you have these kids that are enjoying this live music, so I was like, whatever. But that was our first show ever.
Any other ones that come to mind?
There's the classic Horseshoe story that we have, where it was the first time we'd ever played the Horseshoe Tavern in Toronto, which is like a legendary venue. The Rolling Stones kind of tend to practice there before they like go out on world tours and stuff. So we're like, this is really sweet. Load in, play the show. It was great. It was like a Tuesday night. That's kind of where they start you off. Went to go get like paid from the bartender, and he handed me an envelope, and it was pretty heavy. And I was like, hold on a second. And I shake it, jingling.
Yeah.
Coins. No bills. Just like $12. It was like 6 toonies.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I guess it
was a Tuesday night.
Yeah.
And we had to drive back to Windsor and work the next day.
Yeah.
So this was like, this is what you get from like driving out to Toronto same day, playing a show, and then having to come back and like do your day job.
Was that the first time that you got paid? Were you paid for the birthday party?
No.
No. That was pro bono, just for fun. No, it wasn't the first time we got paid. That was after a lot of shows in hometown, Windsor. We had built up somewhat of a following here locally, and we're just the kind of guys who were like, okay, well, that's solidified, let's move out. That whole year was kind of the first year we had started to branch out and play other cities. We had heard that the Horseshoe was kind of your in for Toronto, but it was a grind. Like, you have to sort of climb up the ranks, so to speak, when it comes to playing the Horseshoe. So that was like their new music night. It wasn't the first time we got paid, but it was probably the first time we got paid that little.
Yeah,
I would say.
When you're like, what's even the point?
It was rough, man. Like, I mean, those kind of things, like, they jab at you, and you're just kind of, you have to sort of like stick and move with that, because it can really put you down.
Yeah.
But it's all part of the journey, I suppose.
So you guys were friends in high school?
Yep.
And you were friends before you started?
Yeah.
Well before.
Well before. Yeah, we were like, we met in grade 9 at St. Anne's, and we had been friends for a while. We were basically like best friends in university, and we were like, why have we never played like music together? I know you play guitar, you know I play drums.
What was the first jam session like?
It was in my parents' basement. I remember, did we record? Is that when we recorded?
Oh yeah.
Okay, yeah. So I had this like super amateur amp set up with some $200 guitar maybe, and then Justin had his set that he'd had forever, and we set up a camera, and we wanted to just record it and like just see how it sounded, right? So we started playing some songs that I had sent Justin over, like, you know, online. It was kind of fun because I was like, oh wow, this is working out a little bit. And we didn't have a bassist at the time, and we are like, well, whatever, we'll get to that. We'll get to the bass player. I mean, obviously we never did. But I like watched the video afterwards, and we were kind of like, hey man, like this this actually sounds pretty good. So I think that was the first time where we had practice and realized that, like, you know, we were confident enough to be like, this could be a thing.
For the first day?
Yeah, well, I mean,
looking back, it wasn't great.
Right.
But
you saw the seed there
Yeah.
or something?
Yeah.
It was like, you know, if we worked on this, if we really gave it something, then we could probably put it together enough that other people would probably enjoy it. We had never played bar shows or anything before that in any other sort of musical capacity. That in high school you don't really play bar shows.
True.
So in university we were like, it would be cool to play bars around here. Like that would be, we would be content doing that. And we started doing that around town. We were like, it'd be cool to play Toronto. That'd be sweet. And then we started doing that. You know, like just putting one foot in front of the other makes it seem so, like, you know, we don't have dreams of like, let's be rock stars.
Yeah, I was
Let's just
curious
go have
about
fun.
that. Yeah, I think people can dream so big that they don't even start.
Yes.
Because their vision of like
That's
where they want to
huge.
end up, but just the fact that you would go to a high school party where some people are like, man, like that's not where I want to be.
yeah,
Right.
that's beneath me.
But yeah,
it's-
exactly. To go for that first step.
I think the problem is you dream too big at first. Like, make smart goals for yourself and something that you know you can achieve, even if it's something small, because it's sort of that. What did that Will Smith say that one time?
He's like, just place. Don't worry about building a wall. He's like, place the best brick. Now place the next best brick.
Yeah.
Like just do each brick
Little
the best,
things.
and then you'll step back and have a great wall. So like,
Thanks, Will.
Yeah. So you guys have been building this wall for like 8 years?
yeah,
Yeah.
2010?
9.
Coming up with 9?
Yeah,
That's
2010
great
was like a
areas.
figuring out
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah, for me that was like when we posted all of our demos on like a MySpace page, which
True.
was what you did back in the day.
True.
Made a Facebook page, and that was like our public start, and we were like officially trying to look for shows in that
Got
year.
it.
Yeah.
I remember the first time I heard of you guys, my friend Anna told me about it. She was like, always knew the cool new music around it. And she's like, yeah, we're going to this show. The Blue Stones are playing at Villains.
Oh,
And I
yeah,
showed
that
up
was a
with
good
like,
band,
there's like
actually.
4 of us, and I never heard you guys before.
Cool.
Never met you guys before. And we ended up dancing right in front of that little stage they had.
Yeah,
all
yeah,
night.
yeah.
You guys had the ties, I think, at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
we
forgot about that.
kind of only got rid of those a few years ago.
Yeah, like it's recent that we got rid of them.
Yeah.
Thank God.
What? Cheesy?
Yeah, it was.
little,
Done
yeah.
before, or-
It's kind of one of those things where when you're an indie band and you're trying to make a brand for yourself, like, okay, that it worked. Don't get me wrong. Like, we'd wear the ties, and then people would remember that. They'd be like, "You were the guys in the suits," or
But
like,
it's just enough to get people.
Yep.
get people talking. And like,
Yep.
it
Calling
was
card.
it was our form of sort of like amateur branding. But then once we started working with a couple more like organizations, they sort of brought up the point that yes, it might look a little bit cheesy, or it might just be way out of the demographic that you're trying to hit. So once we took a step back and looked at it, we're like, yeah, you know what?
Ditch 'em.
Yeah,
It's also impossible
time to
to
go.
tour
Oh
like
my
that.
God.
Like you can't.
I can't even
'cause
imagine.
You can't like dry clean suits all the time.
Yes.
It'll ruin the suit.
Yeah.
But like we're playing and sweating them every night, so
yeah,
it's just impossible.
They had to
tour
go.
like that.
Yeah, got it.
they had to go.
Was there a moment when you started playing gigs in Windsor and then you felt like, oh, we're getting some momentum here?
Yes, there was one show specifically.
I wonder if you're gonna say the same one I'm thinking
The
about.
Blind Dog.
No.
Well, it's
Okay.
because leading up to that, Jamie Greer, who is like cornerstone of the Windsor scene for a long time, he ran a like e-zine called like the Windsor Scene. He wrote about our show, and he was like, the Blue Stones are playing at the Blind Dog, like they're a buzzworthy band in Windsor, and like we'll see what they do with a bigger stage. So I was like, wow, this guy who's like, you know, the in guy in the scene knows who we are and is writing about us. So like
Okay.
that's where I was like, people know who we are.
What's yours?
Mine was definitely a few years later. The Fog Fest show at the Capitol Theater. I can't remember what year it was. I want to say it was like 2012. We had been a band in Windsor for a little while now, and it was kind of nice because you go out for this set and the seats are just packed in this theater room. It was a small theater room, but they're packed and everybody's on their feet and they're cheering and they're singing all the songs. And we finish the set, we go off, they're cheering for an encore, we come back on. Like, that was my first show where I was like, okay, this is something. It was more about the reaction that we got and the support that we had locally. And that's an amazing thing about Windsor, I think, because when the scene embraces you, it like makes you so confident. And I feel like you ride that wave, and that's what we did. And we had the confidence to go to other places and play. And it was all because of the support locally.
100%.
And Windsor was amazing for that. So that was the first show where I was like, this is worth something, and we should take this. We should keep going with this and keep playing other places.
For asking whether I ran into one of you, and I was like, "Oh, how are things going?" And I heard like you were in Europe.
Yeah,
or something like that. And I remember thinking, because I saw your show and I was like, I listened to your music, I was like, fuck, these guys like have a shot.
Thanks,
man. You know what I mean? And it wasn't even, and I'm not even saying that because I know you. It was just like, if I would have heard it, I was like, yeah, like this has some potential. And then I heard that like someone is in Europe, and I was like, kind of heartbroken. I was like, oh my God, is it over? Like, did they, I feel like they've never really, it just kind of made me, I wanted to see you guys win, you know?
Yeah.
So what was there a moment when you were looking at not doing it?
Yes,
and it was close. It was pretty close.
What happened with that?
In any circumstance, we would always make music and at least play around here.
Right.
At least. I think we would always do that. But there was a time where we were like, okay, I think the career goal is done. And so we were like, he wanted to go to school to be a physiotherapist, had an opportunity to do it in England, and I was like, you have to jump on it. We've been doing this for like 6 years now, and we're still playing bar gigs around Ontario. Not that we're quitting, but like, go do this thing, and then let's see if we can, continue.
I knew I had to take the opportunity when I had it, because I knew it probably wouldn't come again. While I was away at school, I still had enough time to come home. Like, we still played.
Still even wrote.
Yeah, well, definitely wrote, but like I don't know if I can really talk about this, but the album release show that we had was while I was away.
Oh,
like
we can talk about that.
Yeah, so like I flew back for that, and we still had the album release.
Was this in at the Walkerville Theater?
That's the one.
I was at that show too.
I was away for that. Like, that's when I was away in England. So we still wanted to keep going.
That was such a sick show.
Oh,
that
that's
was
one of
my
my favorites.
favorite one, and a lot of people.
Yeah. There was a lot of people that night.
There's a lot of people there. I was so surprised. I was like,
and there was like lighting. I had a guitar tech. I was like, this is sick. Yeah, it was getting close. It was getting to the point where it's like, this is going to take a back seat for a bit. I feel like for a lot of bands, a lot of artists in general, actors, what have you, I think that's when things, in a weird way, like start to happen. It's when you least expect it that something happens. Because when it did take a back seat, that's when all of this started to happen.
When you didn't need it to happen?
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I almost want to say that taking that break for a bit was good, because it let us step away from it for a bit, see it from a different perspective. We could choose which opportunities we wanted to take, and we had a bit more of a clear head on where to go with things, because we weren't so deep into it.
From what I heard, Black Holes is about a time after university.
Yeah.
When you're thinking about what's happening next.
Totally.
Yeah,
for sure.
I think a lot of people can relate to that. I didn't know that that's where it came from, so tell me about that.
It's exactly what you're saying, Dan. It's like, because university now is something that a lot of people go to, whether it's college or some kind of post high school degree. But even that's not enough to know what you want to really do, you know? So we had both graduated, and we were kind of sitting there like, oh my God, what am I going to do with my life? Because when you're in school, there's like a schedule, like, oh, I have to go to class and I have to study for this exam. But then when it's done, it's like, okay, go figure it out now. So I think that's scary for a lot of people, myself included. And it's hard to pick something and stick with it. So Black Holes is kind of about that, trying to figure out where you want to go with your life. And if you have a few paths in front of you, which one do you want to take? And it can be scary to choose one and kind of close one door. So it's about making the decision, because those are big decisions you have to make very early on. You're 22 when you have to make that kind of decision. That is nowhere near old enough to know.
Yeah.
So that's what Black Hole's about. I mean, the whole album really is kind of about finding your way.
I mean, for me, even that song is like, there's like a black hole, and then the solid ground that is going to be fine. That path is going to work out, and you'll probably be happy with it. But there's like this big dark thing that is pulling you in that you have no idea how it's going to go. Like, it could screw your whole life up, or it could make you the happiest person in the world. But it's pulling you in, and you're like, oh God, like I could take this solid, easy path, but this thing, I gotta see. It's kind of what we're doing right now. We're seeing.
It's a story of the band in a song, basically. Up to this point, I like that song. I like that song, just because I think that was the first time I started to really write from like the heart. Because before, you write it, you're young, you're writing about like whatever going out, like basically you're shooting from the hip. Like our older albums are just like us being young musicians and like let's make a cool song. But I think Black Holes in general as an album was when we started to be like, no, like let's write about real stuff.
What you care about.
What I care about. And we really started to like form the sound of the band as it is now. So Black Holes was a nice entrance into that.
Let's talk about milestones and how they kind of propel you. It's hard to know like how long to take something.
Yeah.
You don't want to, like you're saying, like
sure.
we've been doing this for like 6 years now. Like maybe it's kind of run its course.
Mm-hmm.
But what are some of the milestones that you've hit, especially recently? I know there's a big one.
Yeah, yesterday.
Yesterday.
Yeah.
What happened?
We sold out Detroit. Like
Dude.
sold out the room
Yeah.
in Detroit. Like,
yeah. That was big.
huge because that's our first sold out show outside of Windsor ever. And so that was massive.
That was big.
I mean, it's great that it was Detroit.
When did
right?
you find out?
That was a few days ago that we found out.
Yeah. It's funny because we were like, okay, well, let's run an ad campaign for Detroit just to make sure that we get like as many people as we can. And then as we're setting this up, our agent emails like, yeah, you guys sold it out, so don't worry about it.
Crazy, man.
Like, okay.
Crazy.
So how was it like? I didn't ask how the show was actually.
It was fantastic.
It was fun.
It was
Man,
really
it was
cool.
fun.
That was another like, I'll never forget that show now.
Amazing thing was there's a lot of people from Windsor that I recognize that were
for
out
sure.
to shows before, and like friends and family, of course. But there was also a lot of people I did not know singing the songs.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, that's cool that you know them.
Yeah.
That was a very cool experience. I think that is a milestone for sure.
Yeah.
So for some early ones, we booked a tour on our own to like go out. We went from Windsor to Halifax. That was something that we saw a lot of other bands doing, and you obviously have to be at a certain point to be able to even think about that financially alone. We always focus on like what's the next thing that we can hit to kind of like that'll give us a little bit of confidence to keep moving forward, right? Yeah, getting into things like Canadian Music Week. We were like, that's a cool thing. Now we're part of this like Canadian scene as a whole.
So
like,
you guys don't try not to think too far ahead?
We try not to. So how I always describe it is like we have goals and visions or goals and dreams. A dream would be like, let's play headline Joe Louis Arena because that's where we've seen so many of our favorite bands. But we don't think about that as a goal. It's like the goal is let's sell 150 tickets in New York City, where we've never done that before. True. So now once we hit that level, you're building towards that.
Yeah. Along with milestones, there's going to be things that sort of like set you back a little bit.
I have a couple of those that come to mind.
We thought like going on tour would be so cool, and then when we did go out east, there were a few shows that were like in a row where we're playing to like 3 people, and we're like, what are we doing?
Why are we doing
this?
Even just last year, we did a tour with Theory of a Dead Man. That was out west and back. It's this February, and you're touring Western Canada. Okay, this is a painted picture. The elements are against you. Like you're playing a show. You have so far to go till the next day, right? You have like an 8-hour drive. And it's snowing, and you have to like hit the road at night and drive through these treacherous conditions. That's also in a weird way like a setback because you're miserable and you're exhausted and you're stressed, but then you have to put on a great show because this is your image now. You can't you can't half-ass it, because you're tired. And I know, Justin, we both look back at that tour and think that was such a great learning experience. No matter who it was that we were opening for, it was nice that we got to experience that, and you learn so much from that. And I think it makes you so much better as a band. So in a way, those setbacks really just shape you and give you character, and they allow you to go even further. So that's why in a way they are milestones, because you're like, remember that really shitty time? Well, it's not as shitty now because we know how to handle it.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's a milestone.
They keep you grounded too, because I mean, if it's just like up, like who knows what that would do to an ego. So it's like these setbacks bring you back to reality, and they're like, we're normal too. We have shitty days. Yeah. We have great days. We have shitty days.
Well, speaking of reality, I want to get into like side hustling and doing what you can to make things happen. Yeah. So I didn't know that you're still working as a physiotherapist.
Yeah, I am.
So what does that look like?
The place I'm at is obviously very accommodating, and all the staff that I work with are absolutely amazing. They know what I do, and they like believe in what I do.
Cool.
And anytime I have to go away, they're like, we got this. Don't worry about it. When I'm home, like I'm in clinic and I'm seeing patients. As much as I'd like to say it is, the music thing just isn't a full-time thing yet. But that's okay. That's just the story of how it is to be a band nowadays. One day I'm like this medical professional. The next day I'm playing a rock show and like just sleeping in a van. It's just,
do you have like an identity crisis at all? Like, I'm trying to get into this like...
I know what you're trying to say. I do know what you're trying to say. I do like to keep them separate as much as I can. When I'm doing one thing, I want to do that thing. If I'm in clinic, I'm a physio. If I'm playing a show, I'm playing a show. So I do try to keep them separate, but they tend to overlap. Like I've had patients come in and be like, hey, like you were in the paper, weren't you? And I was like, oh no. Here we go. It's worked so far.
And
same thing. So I do 2 things in during off days. I work for.
Wait,
like
can I try and explain?
Okay, yes, try.
Do we
Go
have
ahead,
this
try.
thing where it's like,
I have a weird job, a weird day
okay, you
job.
know
It's
Chandler
weird.
from Friends?
Sure.
Remember how like nobody knew what his job
Okay.
was? That's how I feel. That's how I feel about Justin's
Yeah,
job.
100%.
Yeah, because I think I have this down pat now.
Go ahead.
Okay, you work for a company that does tech support at trade shows.
Basically,
Okay.
whenever they have a show that they're setting up, so I'll go and sort of run it if it doesn't overlap with the band. Another thing, I work with amazing people that believe in what we're doing,
Cool.
and they're very like,
It's key.
you give me your tour schedule, I'll give you the off dates that
Oh,
work
sick.
around that.
Yeah,
so they're
it's very
they're
key.
very cool with that. That is a big thing for, you know, up and coming musicians, is that you need to work with people who are gonna believe in that. Give them so much value that they can't deny working around your schedule.
Do you have an example of that?
Like, I haven't had a pay raise since I've worked with them for like, I think it's going on 5-6 years now.
In exchange, like for the flexibility.
Just
Yeah.
And I'm gonna provide so much value that there's no way you're gonna say no.
Yeah,
to,
you
to
work
what
your
I'm offering.
Yeah, you work your ass off.
Yeah.
That's just when you're doing that side
You gotta
hustle.
hustle.
You really do it, and that's why again part of the reason why I like to keep it separate, because I don't want you to think that I'm splitting my time if I am here.
And then I'll drive Uber on the off time. So it's all about like trying to find something that's flexible that you can like turn on, turn off. Sometimes we'll get a show in the States that someone dropped off, and it's like a radio show and the station wants us to come play, and it's 2 weeks away. Traditional jobs, it's very difficult to just get that time off. These shows seem meaningless, but you're planting seeds.
Yep.
And it's like,
You don't see it for a couple of years.
yeah, if you miss planting one seed in a garden, you're not really going to notice it.
Right.
But you need to consistently plant seeds in
Yes.
order to have a garden.
Yes.
And so it's like, plant it, water it, and let it grow.
Okay.
And then eventually you're going to have a full garden which bears fruit, and that's I think where the success comes in.
And actually, to give a very real example of that, St. Louis. We played there once. We opened for Meg Myers, who's awesome. But we also did like a radio visit there, and we got to know the radio people. We did a short interview, and they really backed us, right? So we're there one time. The next time we're in that city, which was 3 days ago,
You have the relationships. And,
there was 250 people at the show in this city that's 8 hours
Been
away.
to once. Like
Like we don't know anybody
Crazy.
there, you know.
Crazy.
So it's like planting those seeds are very important,
Yeah.
and it's
Yeah.
weird how far that will go.
Like, I mean, for you, I think it would be something like, if you have a few auditions, even if you don't get anything, now you've met these casting
Yeah,
directors.
true.
You're in their file. They're like, you know what? He wasn't great for that role, but like, I remember his face. He was a
Yeah.
good guy. We're going to reach out to him.
Yeah.
And now that's
That's-
like a secret
yeah.
audition that you wouldn't have never
And
had.
that's already happened where my agent has said, like, you know, this casting director wanted you.
There you go.
And you're like,
Okay. Have you met somebody on set that was like maybe not even anything to do with casting, but somebody who was like working on a different project that was like, listen, like I'll put
the
your name.
serendipity of like, yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
like, I'll put
yeah.
your name in, and like I'm working on this
Yeah.
set next week. Maybe if you're available, you can do it.
Or on like a bigger set, there's a key
Yeah.
grip who is a director and just trying to make it, and he's like, you know what, he's a great guy, maybe he'll work on my project.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone has said we were lucky, but if they were, I would just say that, look, we exposed ourselves to chance.
Just
We
rolled
took
the
the
dice
chance.
enough times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't be lucky if all you do is make music in your basement and put it online. Like, where's the opportunity? Who's going to come across that?
Yeah.
Whereas when you're playing shows and you're going out to other people's shows and talking to people and just being involved, people remember you and take the initiative to book you.
And something that I've been thinking about for a long time is like, it's so much easier for that to happen when you're in a major city.
Yes.
The serendipity, bumping
Yeah.
into people, just being at events and friends, it just seems
Yeah.
so much easier. But I just found out that you still live in Windsor and you live in Kingston,
Yeah.
which I didn't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
hike.
How
It's a
does
hike.
that work? Yeah.
Basically, we just have to factor in anytime we go on a tour or anytime we have to fly somewhere, even for a date, we just have to factor in one extra day to like link up. Or
Yeah.
at least to get there. Maybe even another extra day to be able to have time to practice. It hasn't been too bad, to be honest.
Yeah. Sometimes
Yeah.
it even works out better. Like if we have a show in New York.
Yeah,
it's
true.
Only, like,
True.
It's only about 6 hours from where I am. It's just actually New York City is just as far from Windsor for me. He'll come up, stay a night, and then
Right.
we'll drive
Yeah,
down. Instead of
together.
like
Yeah.
that's from here is like 12 and a half hours.
Yeah, true. It's like a
So,
checkpoint that we have spread
Yeah.
out now,
Got
which
it.
is nice. In Windsor, we're so close to Detroit, so if there's any shows south or southwest, then Justin comes here
The night before.
the night
Yeah.
before. Exactly.
Do you have intentions to move somewhere? Or are you kind of playing that by ear?
I really want to get back for sure
To
to Windsor.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure. We're at this weird phase where it's like we can't completely rely on the money that we make in the band. So if I'm gonna come here for that, I gotta make sure that like everything can work out. We're moving towards that.
Yeah, and it'd just
there.
be nice to be in the same city because you can practice more, you can write more together. Not that we don't write as it is, it's just now I have to write something and send it to you.
Yes.
Right? Whereas I could show you.
Yeah.
I don't really have any plans of moving at all.
Yeah. Do you think about moving to a big city at all? Is that any
We've
part
thought
of your
about it. I
strategy?
just
or
don't think it's necessary.
Okay.
Yeah, in music, you really don't need to.
because you travel so much. That,
And there's no real like home base. Sure, it has its perks, okay? Like, and I think if you're up and coming, it's important to be in a big city or at least play in a big city. Now that we are somewhat established, or like we have a brand built, we have a label and management, it doesn't necessarily mean we have to be anywhere specific. So that's kind of nice.
We actually used to do some like amateur acting.
Yeah.
And,
Yes, I heard that you did. I didn't know you did. Yeah.
Yeah, we both did student films, and then
Met
you
some
know we
great
were
people,
kind of
too.
doing the band at like low level acting at the same time. We actually sort of made a conscious decision to leave acting behind.
Why is that?
Because it's hard.
Harder than music?
Way harder.
Way harder.
Really?
When I saw that you were booking gigs in Toronto, I'm like, wow, this dude hustles.
Yeah,
Like that, it's so much harder.
I
than
have
music,
so
man.
much
So much
respect
harder.
for like, people like you that are trying to do the acting, just because there's one very stark difference, and that's acting you do on your own, and in a band you're with people.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
acting, it's like you go into a room and you're doing an audition, and there's like 20 other people who look just like you, and you're just like, shit, like I'm just here by myself. I think it's a real big fight, and I really respect that. Not that music isn't a fight as well,
Yeah.
but it's kind of nice to have somebody to do it with.
We'll each individually have days that are like, oh man, this is a grind. Like I'm getting sick of this. And then I have Tarek to be like, no man, like look at what we've done in the past. Like look at the show. Like so many people are into what we're doing. Like let's keep going. So I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
And he's in the exact same boat as I am. He has nothing to gain, that I don't have to gain. So it's nice that we're on the same team.
Right.
Yeah.
Whereas even like at the end of the day, your agent could have different goals than you for acting.
Totally.
Because they could be in it for, like, say they want something for money, where you're like looking at it of an image standpoint.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's nice to be in the exact same boat as someone who has nothing to gain from anything that would be bad for me is bad for him.
Right.
Yeah, it's a support system.
It's a very unbiased support system.
Yeah.
It's
So
great.
that's what we think is different
Yeah.
about the two.
Not the odds necessarily, but just the
Yeah,
social
not
support.
the support thing. I
Yeah.
think that was. I think at the end of the day, I was just more passionate about music.
Cool.
That's it. Whether it's art, being in some kind of art or like medical school, like don't try and be a doctor if you don't really want to do it because it's hard.
It's one great thing that like med school is so hard because
It keeps
you
the
keep
people
the people
out.
that
It
really
keeps the
want
pe-
it.
yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
and that's an important.
Yeah.
We should only have doctors that want to do it.
Yeah.
It's the same thing for acting, same thing for music. I think that's why a lot of people are like, when they see someone who kind of skips the line, who goes from just being nobody to being like somebody overnight, a lot of people who are like in the trenches are like, this is supposed to weed out people who like don't care about it. You might not even care that you're successful, but like here I am grinding every day.
True.
I don't feel that way. If someone gets overnight success, I'm like, it's either going to come and go, and it's going to take you as far as your passion goes anyway.
Yeah.
I don't have like this scarcity mindset that if someone is famous, I can't be like successful.
Right.
Or like
True.
if this person is going on tour and selling out clubs, now I can't. Like
Yes,
there's
yeah.
room.
Yeah.
There's room for
Yeah.
us all.
Yeah.
And speaking of support, can you tell me about just your families and friends and how that's been? Imagine like people close to you want you to stay on that solid ground because they don't want someone they love to get sucked into the black
100%.
hole.
Oh yeah.
For example, like I had a drama teacher, and I see how like much pressure this would have been at the time, but I was thinking about what to do next, like after high school.
Yeah.
And there's like National Theatre School of Canada. And I was like, I wonder about like applying. And I think I straight up asked him at like 18 years old, like, do you think I have what it takes to like go to this school?
Yeah.
And the look on his face was like, oh fuck, because he can't win with that answer. Like if he says no, he's like breaking my
Yeah.
Yeah.
heart. And then if he says yes, he might be setting me up for like a life of like, he just felt like a responsibility of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
True.
And I see that with, for example, actors is like they don't want their kids to be actors because you just want someone you love to have like a safe, happy
Of
life.
course.
And of course, on the other hand, it's like you want to see that person rise and
Yeah.
go after what they believe in. But can you talk to me a bit about like your social support outside of each other? And,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great
And maybe-
question.
and
It's
actually.
a very
maybe-
good question. And it's hard for us because now, like, when those sentiments get brought up, that, someone just wants us to have a stable life where we're around often and, because, like, we're gone so much that, not that these relationships degrade, but, like, you know, they're not as involved as if we were to be here. We, you know, start to feel a little bit of a pull of like, am I being selfish by doing what am I doing to like my friends and family that I'm just like leaving behind to go away for so long? I think everyone that we're close with feels both ways. They want to have us around, but they also are seeing what we're doing and seeing how happy it makes us, and they're like, well, you know, I don't want to turn that down for these guys because they're so happy doing it.
Our friends have all been amazing. They support us from the start. They're at every local hometown show.
Cool.
And they'll even travel, like if they can. And I know like a lot of Justin's family travels too. Like I feel like I know them so much more now because they've been at every show that they can get to. Support system wise, I think we have a strong one, and I'm really happy about that. I think early on, I guess it would be first generation Canadian is what I am.
Yeah.
So yeah, my parents are immigrants, right? So early on it was tough for sure. It was kind of, you know, they saw this as like, oh yeah, Tarek has a cool hobby and like it's fun, but he's got to go study. There was definitely a struggle early on, and I think I was young too, so like I kind of lashed out a bit because you're young and you just don't get it. You don't get what you were saying earlier, where it's like they just want you to have a comfortable and a safe life. They want you to be happy and like, I know this will work for you, so just do it. Please do it.
They don't want to see you suffer. Or
exactly.
struggle.
Over the years, I feel like my parents started to see, like, as we had done more things and accomplished more things, these milestones that we're talking about, they're kind of seeing like, okay, like he's doing something. Not only is he doing something, he's doing something that's actually working, but he's doing it for himself. And there was a time where we all kind of got together and they like showed this huge support, and they're like, listen, we want you to do this, and like we're pushing for you. They've been so amazing with like all of this. That support system was like an example of one that wasn't as strong at first, but it sort of built over time. It's a story for just continuing to push what you're passionate for, because once things start moving, people will recognize it, and then you can say at the end of the day that like you did this for yourself. Like if somebody were to ever come up to us, you know, and not that they ever would, but if they were to say something like, you know, you guys bought your way through, or like, yeah, you got lucky and stuff, like I would really take that to heart, man. I'd be pretty pissed off because like we worked for this shit, you know, and like there's a lot of struggles that you go through financially, but also just like mentally. You're just like, you have to keep your determination. Having the support system helps you keep going with that, I think.
I want to ask you guys also about comparison. So Facebook came like we in high school, right? And it's like this weird, twisted, alternate universe thing now, 10, 11 years after graduating. You can like see how all these people had this like same life at one point, and then everyone's going in these different directions, and as time goes by, those lines just diverge more and more.
Totally.
And I've like, I don't know, I like have a hard time with that. Do you guys, with you living in Windsor still and seeing those people around, or yourself, like think about what other people your age or who you've known or grown up with are doing, and how like you kind of measure up to them, and how does that come into play?
How many wedding and
the weddings,
the wedding photos,
crazy,
the pregnancy photos, like you're just like, whoa, you have a kid now, you have two kids. It's not that you compare, but you're just kind of like, wow, like I don't even feel close to that right now. So
it's almost so foreign that it's like we can't like be envious of it, because it's like I'm just so not in that world.
Exactly. And like I know eventually we will be, but it's just like right now, just no.
Or even like the stable career thing.
That comes into play,
that's my
because
biggest one.
You know, I'm just like that. It just would be nice to just go into work and like, I think I would be that kind of person where if I was working a day job, I probably would care about it and be pretty passionate about it. So I see these people that are like almost getting as much out of their job that I'm getting out of doing my career, and I'm like, could I do that? Could I do that? Have like a lot less stress of just having a consistent paycheck.
Do you still think about that?
I mean, it comes across. It comes across, but grass is always greener on the other side.
Yeah.
So I'm sure if I was doing that, I would be then looking at the people that I used to go on tour with, and I'm like, damn.
And now they're at this level now.
Cool.
What would I have been?
It's all just about like stay in your lane and keep making progress. I think when you change lanes, that's when you reset, and that's just a nightmare.
I always say that I wish there was like a little switch I could turn off in my head for like being drawn towards doing this. Because I know if I were to do the whole regular 9 to 5 whatever, you're right, it would be secure to be like you'd find some happiness in it, you'd find some fulfillment. But if I were to do it, I'd always be thinking like, oh, like I want to get back into music, or I'd see something, I'd be like, maybe we should like start this back up again. So I wish there was like a switch, like a hard cut on it, but there just isn't. You know, I'm always going to be drawn towards music, so I don't fight it. I kind of embrace it in a way. You have to, because if you do fight it, it's just going to kill you.
Do you guys have any like book or a talk or some kind of like inspirational speech that you go to that kind of keeps you going, or that you wish you came across?
I really like Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. A really good one. We're all on a path, and like you said, like don't fight it, just kind of go with it. The more you kind of let the stream carry you and just embrace that, I think the further you're gonna go. Instead of trying to change reality, like he's saying, sometimes you wish, you're like, I wish I wasn't drawn to music. I wish I was drawn to a stable career. It really doesn't matter, because you're not. So instead of trying to change the way that your brain is wired, let's just go with the way we're wired and try and make it work.
Why fight nature?
Right?
It makes no sense. Let's say I want like a burst of motivation, even if it's for writing new music. Like I'll just listen to some of the older stuff that I originally fell in love with, and that influenced me to start writing. So I'll throw on an old album that I loved, and I'll hear the things that really sparked the influence 10 years ago, and I'll be like, okay, yeah, this is why I did it. And then that motivates you to write again. Or I'll hear a piece of new music from a band that's like, wow, that's so good, and like I want to do that. That is a spark of motivation for me.
Is there something that comes to mind for you guys that seemed really difficult and scary at first, but once you did it, you're like, oh, that was it?
Remember the first time we looked at a full list of tour dates, I was like, damn, this is like far and a long time. Like I'm gonna be away in new places. The only person I know is Tarek, and like, trying to wrap your head around like, how are we gonna get everywhere? And it's every day is a full day. Just like, okay, we just got to get to the next city, and then the next city is St. Louis, and so that's an 8-hour drive, and then we'll do that, and then the next city after that is Memphis, and then we'll get there and play the show. Is like, you just got to focus on right now. I think it's when you take a step back and try to imagine what things are going to be like, you kind of just make this fake like mental movie that only exists in your brain. Like, just focus on what you're doing right now.
Yeah, I agree with that.
When we went out west for the first time, was like, holy shit, this is so much driving. And we did like 14 hours a day. For like
of driving?
Driving.
Wake up, get into the car, drive, stop for lunch, and get into a hotel, sleep, do it all over again.
Comes time to do it, we're crushing 14-hour days of driving. We actually get to the West Coast early and got a chance to spend an entire day in Seattle, which we didn't have.
Oh, cool. I want to wrap with this question.
I know it's going to be a good one. Who's going to wrap?
I don't know if it's good. When was the last time you both cried tears of joy, or just felt that tearing well up?
Oh, man. I'll tell you something. Last night, there was like...
that was actually very good.
Yeah, again, it was a show in Detroit, sold out. And it was a small place. Like, I'm not talking this is like some kind of arena that we sold out, right? But still, like, to us, like, it was fun. There was a point where we were playing our final song, Rolling with the Punches. We've played this song for years live, right? No joke, Dan, like, I get to maybe halfway through the first verse into the chorus, and then for the rest of the song, like, I wasn't even singing anymore. Like, the whole crowd is singing it. They know the words to everything.
Like, I didn't know if my mic was on, because
and I was
everyone was singing.
Is this me
nuts.
singing, and it just like is Brendan putting some kind of effect that makes it sound like a crowd? But everyone was singing every last word, and to me, I kind of stood back and I was like, wow, this is
honestly, that's not even where I was going with it. I was thinking of the proposal. So
true. I can't believe I forgot about that. Oh my god!
Like last week or something, was saying that they're from Columbus. Him and his girlfriend have like really always bonded over our music. He said, I bought tickets to your show and I want to propose to my girlfriend, and like I want to somehow do it like at your show. Like, what can we do? And we were like, well, why don't you come up during like our love song, which is called Magic. We do like a little breakdown. We'll say we want our friend to come up on stage. And so he came up and was like professing his love to his best friend, his girlfriend, and she said yes. And I was like, this is crazy that it's crazy that what we are doing is sparking that. I'm sure they would have got engaged with or without us, but it's crazy that he was like, this is the moment and this is the environment that I want to do that. And I was like, this is like, what a beautiful thing.
couple days after Valentine's Day too.
That was very special for me.
Did they talk about the music at all? And was it because of the?
I think it kind of. I don't know if it was like that brought them together, but they would listen to it all the time together. And they're from like Ohio, like Columbus, Ohio.
My God.
And they drove for this show, and like this guy was messaging us. I remember asking him like, "Man, are you sure you want to do this here
in front of so many
But
people?
he was like adamant. He was determined. He's like, "Yes, like you guys, this is music that we listen to together."
But it was like, this is so moving.
Cool.
Yeah. Wow,
so it was
just
yesterday.
happened yesterday.
So
happened yesterday.
So recent.
Yeah.
Cool, man.
About 12 hours ago.
Cool. I know you got a big drive coming up.
Yep.
Do you have any kind of parting thoughts actually for people who are watching, whether that's anything that we've talked about? Like, what would you want to leave people with?
I mean, something that people ask us a lot is like a lot of younger musicians are like, what do I need to do
next? Yeah, this is a good one.
And this is a question that we had early on in the band. We went to go see Sam Roberts play, and at the Wine Fest in Amherstburg, we met the band. We were asking them like, what do we got to do? Like, where you guys are in a spot where we want to be someday. What do we have to do? And they were like, just keep playing shows. Just keep playing shows. And I never understood. I'm like, that doesn't make any sense.
Sounds like a platitude.
Yeah.
Like
yes. Again, you're putting yourself in a position of opportunity. There's like a direct line from one of our Horseshoe shows where we met someone in the audience who knew someone that they work in like sync licensing in LA, which is like putting music into shows, and that's where we got our song in the show Suits. Because of that placement, we had a lot of like traction on Spotify because the fans of that show really love the music, so they like
keep up
make
with it.
playlists.
Yeah.
And so we're on all these different playlists, and now because we have a lot of like spins on Spotify, our manager, we got thrown into a certain algorithm. Our manager found us one day on his like Discover playlist, and we started working with them, and then we got a record deal. Playing shows and putting yourself in an opportunity to capitalize is the most important thing. Someone tells you go play shows, it's not just a platitude. It's think about what you're doing and who you're playing to, and make the most of that. And that's the best advice I can give.
Let's say taking that one step further, I think the most effective group of people for us have been our managers. I think a lot of people shoot to have a good agent, which is obviously really great, or they try to be like, let's get signed by a record label. Like, we just need to get signed, that's all we need to do. It's not.
Not even close.
A manager is somebody who's a good manager, who is connected in the scene, who knows the music scene, who knows what would be good for a band at your stage. That's the most important person.
And they're really directing and guiding your careers.
Like exactly. We wouldn't be anywhere near to what we're doing now. I mean, not even saying that it's a lot, but anywhere near to what we have been doing in the last year if it weren't for our managers and the connections that they've built and the guidance they've given us. So I think having a strong manager or set of managers is very, very important for an up and coming band.
Cool. Anything else you want to add?
That's it.
No.
All right. Well, it's getting really chilly.
It's
We're
starting
coming
to get
up to an
cold.
hour.
Yeah. Wow. I'm freezing.
Yeah, that's the one. The cars are great for everything except weather.
Yeah.
But listen, thank you guys so much for making time for this.
It was a
for
pleasure.
Yeah, thank you.
It was a pleasure.
Thank you.
It was a pleasure.
You were mentioning how the difference between like musicians and actors is actors, you kind of feel like you're going alone, and it feels like that sometimes. But when I talk to people like you guys who are going after it, it's like, okay, they're doing it.
Yeah.
I'm not, I may not be
Yes.
talking to you every day, but just knowing that there's guys like you from the same city as me going
Cool,
after
man.
it.
That's
makes me
sweet.
feel-
Yeah, there's a connection. There is.
Where can
Cool,
people find you online? Bluestones, obviously.
Yeah,
Yeah.
bluestonesmusic.com.
Website.
BluestonesMusic.com is the website, but more like Instagram,
Yeah,
Facebook.
you guys
Yeah.
do some fun Instagram live stuff.
We're
we do.
we're very active on Instagram.
Yes.
I'd say if you want to like follow us, Instagram's the place to do it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Cool.
Cool, man.
Okay.
Thanks a lot, dude.
Okay, sweet. Let's wrap this. Hey, thanks for watching. Please check out another video if you are interested, and sign up for email updates at dantatebrown.com. I'm curious if there's like a lesson or something that we talked about that stood out to you. So leave that below. Maybe a time when you had to put like the next brick ahead, or you got sucked into your own black hole. Thank you. So you gotta try this angle.
This would probably be a little bit tighter.
The angle is fairly wide.
Oh, right. GoPro.
Oh, yeah,
It's
okay.
kind of out to here, so
Okay.
I've never had a problem.
Have you ever had it where it like fell?
Yes. Well, I used to do it on my phone until recently.